Hey everybody, I'm Dane Sanders and I want to welcome you to Fast Track Coaching Ask Dane. This is episode, I don't know, 80 something, and we've been doing this for a long time, basically where once a week we have a chance to get into a conversation, a real conversation, where it isn't just a monologue or even just a dialogue, but all of us get to engage around a particular topic. And I try to bring in guests that are pretty diverse and have a different perspective. And today is actually a very different perspective, but I think one that we can all appreciate, and many of us would actually like to relate with. But it's fun to look at our business from different angles, and I think that's some of the intention with Ask Dane, is to bring in folks that might give you a different perspective. And for those of you who have not been here before or are watching on replay, the way it works is it's a 30-minute conversation. It goes pretty quickly. And with our guest today, who's very, very busy, time is going to be pretty precious, so we have to be very sensitive to her time. But there's a lot going on in these conversations between the two of us chatting, or you asking questions, or us giving away. We have a contest, we have a winner today. And inevitably, when people are on the show, there's always a group of people who are spectating and participating. And if you really want to participate, meaning you want to ask questions live on the air, if you want to jump on and set up your video camera, you can do that as well and actually join us online. But the trick is to be a participant. If you're just a spectator, you won't get nearly the benefit of this whole deal, including the conversation in the chat room and everything else. But the way to ask a question, if you want, is in the lower right-hand corner. There should be a light bulb. If you click the light bulb, it'll come up with giving the option of either giving a video question or a text question. And you can ask those as we go along, and we'll collect them, and then I'll approve them and bring you guys online for when it's appropriate. If you ask questions in the chat room, we might not be, it's pretty unlikely we'll be able to get to this because we want to make sure that everyone is participating. And again, the more you're a participant rather than a spectator, the more you're going to get out of it. So without further ado, I want to bring on my friend Melody Brandon. Melody, hello. How are you, my friend?
Hi. Good. Glad to be here.
Good. I'm glad you're here too. Melody and I have been friends for about a year or so, and I was very privileged. She catered my 40th birthday party, had a chance to have you on the show on Make Your Day You way back when, and it's just been so fun to watch all that's gone on for you in such a, in my experience, pretty short period of time. And for those of you who don't know Sweet and Saucy Shop or have not heard about what you're up to, Melody, can you just for a minute share a little bit about your journey so far as a vendor in the wedding industry, but you do a lot more than that, and just where the dream started and kind of a short history of how you got to where you're at, and then I'll give some folks some context.
Sure, yeah. Well, I actually started out, I was going to be an elementary school teacher, and then I wasn't finding that was exactly where I wanted to go. I'd always loved doing food and desserts especially, so I stopped going to Long Beach State after about 3.5 years and went to pastry school at the Le Cordon Bleu School. And then after that, I worked at Zove's for about 7 months and decided if I wanted to make it a career, I'd have to go out on my own. So I started working out of my house, and I would bake and decorate and all of that for about 2.5 years. I rented kitchen space and then did it out of my home. And then about a year ago, my parents partnered with me, and I opened up a store here in Long Beach. And we're definitely more than just your typical bakery or wedding cake provider. We're more of like a custom dessert studio. I try to do really high-end desserts, all very detailed for the wedding cakes. We don't mass produce anything. They're all hand-drawn and painted on with molds and sugar flour. So very artistic, which I really love, and I never knew growing up that was something about me, but I've sort of grown into it. And we do have a storefront where you can walk in every day and get your cupcakes and cookies and treats like that. But we do a lot of mini dessert bars and whole design setup. So we love working with everyone in the wedding industry. A lot of planners and designers and florists. I'm really more involved than a lot of cake decorators per se, because I want the whole backdrop and everything to, be an experience, a once in a lifetime experience for a bride and groom, whereas, a lot of their guests haven't seen something like that before. So that's sort of my short story. There's lots of details, but there you go.
That's great. Well, I have a lot of questions for you. One little itsy bitsy logistical thing is in your system preferences. Is there any way that you could go into system preferences and turn the sound just down a little bit because it's clipping a little bit, and I think folks would appreciate it. But kind of a minor thing. But there's so much I want to talk to you about. Everything that you're saying about what you've done. First of all, you've only been doing this for a year, and yet
I've been only a year,
which is ridiculous because I see you in Southern California Magazine, I see you in The Knot, I think I've seen you in People Magazine, for goodness sakes. Like, this is ridiculous. And we'll get to the television stuff in a minute, but are you surprised by the amount of attention you've received in the last year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely surprised. I tried to put in a lot of legwork in the 2.5 years that I was at my house, and I definitely think that helped me out a lot. I researched a ton of things. I started getting to know vendors in that time, and I didn't want to jump into having a business and go financially down or be super stressed out financially my first year. So I think that's one thing that, maybe was a smart decision business-wise on my behalf. I really tried to go not race into anything and do my homework ahead of time, and I had like a part-time job as I was doing this and made sure that this is the career I really wanted. And then I never knew weddings per se was going to be what I wanted to really get into. I thought maybe plated desserts or, little treats and things like that. But, when I started meeting people in the wedding industry, I fell in love. I love planning my own wedding, and I love that creative part to it. And I love the community here. I love photography. If I wasn't a cake decorator and baker, I think photography might be something that I would want to go into. So all these different loves sort of came in, and I just sort of jumped into it and really started connecting with a lot of people. So I found in my, career so far that connecting with people has been my main strategy of really trying to grow as a business. Like, I have to present what I do, and I want to really connect with people. And it's worked, I guess, so far. So the Lord definitely gets all the credit. My family's amazing. But I have put in many countless hours of sleep and many tears along the way, but definitely blessed.
Well, it's first of all, if you guys have been around me very much or heard me talk about being an invitation, making a connection, and letting that turn into a conversion, just so you know, none of this was planted in this conversation with Melody. This is actually just who she is, everywhere she goes all the time. And it's fun for me because I've not only been a customer, I've been a fan. I mentioned my birthday, also for my wife's birthday, we did this roller skating party, and then out of the blue, of course, you made something happen for us with that. And a lot of photographer friends, we have mutual friends, and we've been around the same kinds of events. But in particular, I'm really struck with this idea that your strategy of connecting with people is primarily what you do. And when you say that, can you give even a little bit more context? Like, when you say connect with folks, it's got to begin with things like, knowing who you want to have a conversation with, doing something special to have them remember you in some unique way. But what are some things, in your own words, of ways that you connect with these folks on any level, whether they're customers or they're Tori Spelling? How do you make this happen?
Yeah, well, with connecting, I mean, I took my husband's advice when I first started my business, and I started a blog, and I didn't even know what a blog was. I was like, who wants to read anything I have to write? This sounds ridiculous. But I submitted. No, I'm joking. I said, okay, I would try it out. So I started blogging, and, I connected first with the food industry and did a lot of, submitting food photos and recipes, and I found people in the that were foodies really wanted free advice and stuff. So I would do lots of tutorial videos. I would take lots of photos, and I felt like photos was definitely something that I need to present, because I can talk all the time, but if I don't have a photo of my work, nobody really cares. So I would do always photos and blogs, and I found like I was getting a lot of hits on my website. Or on my blog. And that's how I started getting some of my bigger jobs, because I would blog so often, and my husband does website design and SEO, that he would make it to where I would come up in search engine optimization really easily. And so, my orders with, like, say, Oprah for sugar cookies, you know, not necessarily because I'm the best sugar cookie maker in the world. There actually was quite an easy order, to be honest. It's digital printing photos. But, you know, they Googled, they found my blog, and then went to my website. So I try to connect. My main strategy was with the web. I tried to connect with people and give great photos, give something about myself, and then have it really easy and professional looking. And in my industry, unlike photography industry, websites are really great looking. Almost for a lot of photographers, you know, it's common. But in the bakery world, it isn't. They're almost all like from the, you know, 18th century. They look horrible. The photos are really bad. And so I realized, you know, soon that if I had good photos of my work and I got to know photographers that I loved and had them photograph my stuff, that my stuff would turn out looking amazing. You know, not only because I was, you know, say good or talented in one way, but then the photography was amazing, or like the set design. So I started connecting that way with customers, and I always was very personal when I first started. I met with every single customer myself. I delivered every single wedding. Now my business has grown. I can't do that as much anymore, but I really try to keep that personal. Like almost my whole staff is family or friends, and they care about my business as much as I do, and I think it comes off, and I think that's really important. And then the other way, I guess, connecting with vendors is, you know, I went for the vendors that I liked, that I would have hired for my wedding, and that's who I went after trying to work with. And I would do anything for free almost if it was people I wanted to work with. So, you know, as some people might not want to give away anything free, I figured I don't want to advertise in magazines and pay for things like that, but I don't mind doing something for free as long as it's something that I really want to present of myself, and I work with talented people. So that's what I've been trying to do all along, and I've done a lot of free events, but I don't advertise anywhere really. So that's what I've tried to do with my advertising and connecting with people along the way, I guess.
That's great. Well, let me repeat back what I'm hearing you say, because there's a lot here. First off, when you started your career, you were wise enough to lower the risk, and you lowered the risk by keeping your overhead low, keeping a part-time job, working from home, and not putting yourself in a position where if you didn't hit it out of the park, you were going to be in jeopardy. And from there, you spent your time almost exclusively trying to connect with real people in a personal way, even if it meant giving stuff away for free, because you knew that the relationships with the people you were connecting with was more important than anything. And then third, I heard you say that you really spent a lot of time looking online and seeing, like in particular, what your competition was doing, and you went in a direction that they weren't currently at, specifically with web design and taking advantage of visual elements with your partners, with other photographers and so forth, and making it mutually beneficial with those folks by creating an environment where you really stood out, so that when people like Oprah, or I mentioned Tori Spelling, or whoever, Tori Spelling, whoever, when these folks thought of you, or they didn't think of you, they had a need, they went and looked, you were the one that kind of, it looks like you appeared out of nowhere, when in reality, you just did some basic fundamentals and set the table in such a way so that when people had a need, you were first to mind. Is that a fair representation of what happened?
Yeah, I would definitely say that's true. I mean, people ask me all the time, how did you get on TV? How did you get this kind of order? And I mean, I feel like I put a quality product out there. I give 100%, but really some of the things are out of my control. I mean, number one, I do have a relationship with God, and I feel like He definitely directs my path, and I'm trying to put my best foot forward, and then just, it's in His hands, and I try to, live my life that way, but also definitely making those easy steps. But, some people just don't do them, maybe because they're time consuming or cost a little money, but professional website, something that's really searchable, working with quality people, never letting your standards go down. I mean, connecting with people and being honest. I think those are all big things that sometimes people just forget about doing, but it's really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's funny. My friend Stephanie LeBond asked, James Bond. Stephanie LeBlanc asked the question, there are so many photographer blogs, how do you suggest someone to set him or herself apart from the crowd? And I think this is a really relevant question, because you mentioned earlier that there were, unlike photography, in your particular world of design, at least I call it design, but there were less folks doing what a lot of photographers are doing. But I actually heard it a little differently in that, let's say in your industry, folks were very progressive in their websites and that sort of thing. My hunch is you probably still would have found a way to stand out in the crowd because you would have done something different. So how would you respond to Stephanie's question if indeed in your industry people were more developed with their websites?
Yeah. I think for photographers, one thing that's really important is, maybe if you're just starting out and your clientele isn't necessarily the style or the look that you want to shoot, that you need to create that yourself. One thing that I did when I first started is I didn't have a lot of wedding cake orders because no one's going to order a wedding cake from anybody that's never done one before. So I actually created wedding cakes called dummy cakes, where it's styrofoam inside, and I just decorated all of them and then got them professionally photographed to where they looked really great. And so taking that with photography, if you don't have weddings that have a great look that really shows your style and the people that you want to work with, I think you should create that yourself by trying to find people in the industry that want good photos. And if you can provide that, then they might want to create, great bouquets or cakes or setups and design and photograph those. And everyone's doing it for free, but it is benefiting everyone because this is what they want their style to look like. So I would say, creating photos of stuff you really like is something really important because that's what I'm looking at. I mean, you can take a great photo, but if your subject isn't that great, it's not going to turn out that good.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny because there is a sense in which, like you said, there are a lot of photographers who are trying to do that kind of thing. And I hear this question, and by the way, Stephanie, I'm so glad that you asked it because it's on a lot of folks' minds. But I still don't think that there's a connection that people are getting, like, because photographers, even if they're progressive, they do look generic, so many websites, because they're all doing it the exact same way. And yet, it just seems like just do something different with your style and you're going to stand out. But is that too generic? I mean, or not a strong enough response? I don't know, but I know for me, I'm really pleased with how my site has stood out in the past, but in another sense, I'm not pleased at all because it's been emulated or people have tried to do similar things, and now it's kind of time to go get creative again. Like for instance, if you were going to start out from scratch right now and had to redo your site entirely, would you do anything different? What would you do?
Well, one thing that I was really blessed with is I think one thing that's super important is branding. And I know what I like and what I don't like, but I'm not necessarily talented at branding or coming up with something unique. And so one of my best girlfriends, Carrie Pike, has a business called Carrie Pike Designs and then Posh Papery, where she does invitations, but she does a lot of branding for people in the wedding industry. She started with me first. I was one of her first branding people, and I think to go after a company and let them brand you and really let you come out to them and let someone professionally use their talents to make it look professional and great and different, that was good. It worked for me well. I found someone I really liked for branding, and then I found someone that was really good at website design. If someone's better at doing something than you are, I say it's worth paying them sometimes. So I think that's a good idea.
Do you think it's for folks who are just getting started, I love what you said, like you knew what you liked and you knew what you didn't like, and that itself is one of the reasons why you stand out, is because you're very defined and people know what to expect. And I think that's probably another understated part of branding. If people don't totally know what they like or don't like yet, or they know that they'll see other people's stuff and they'll go, I like what that other person's doing, but I still don't totally know what my own style is, would you recommend that those folks go out and spend money as well? Or maybe what you're describing is more kind of a trade opportunity where you look for a barter situation with someone who's also getting started. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you don't know what your look is and what you want yet, then maybe that is, a good pause for you to realize that you should just keep practicing a little bit more and investigating and learning and growing before you really put some big, dollars behind getting professional branding in the look, and might start off with a little bit, maybe a trade with someone who's a web designer and you can do photos for them, and then eventually get a professional brand going. I mean, when I first started, I had a website done that was not that great because I needed something to put photos on. But then once I had some money and knew what I really wanted to look like and how my business was growing, then I changed it and went and paid money for it.
Okay, that's great. Let's. I'm gonna take that question off for 1 second. Let's talk a little bit about. Actually, you know what? Is it midway through? We're gonna pause for a second because we have a contest that I ran last week, and I'm gonna get you to pick the winner of the contest. Is that okay?
Oh, fun. Okay.
Okay, so the contest was they're going to win. We did this event here in Southern California called Escalate Live, and it was some of our mutual friends spoke at it. Jasmine, Becker, Jessica, DJ, myself, Jeremy Cowart, Jerry Ghionis, Julieanne Kost. I think I said Jeremy Cowart, but great group of people. It was really fun. But we have a new event that's coming up in about a month and a half or so, actually about a month, in Washington, Illinois. We're going to broadcast it all over the planet again. And we're going to let people know about it, I put it on my blog at blog.danesanders.com. But if you guys want, but I also said if people tweeted this stuff about it and got the word out for us, that we'd give away a copy of all the video on demand from the first Escalate that we did. And you get to pick the winner. So I would love it if you could pick a number between 1 and 65.
I'm going to go with 38.
38. Make it complicated. Very helpful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. What number did you say?
38.
Did you say 38? Great. So the winner is from Southern Michigan at Jay Buehler, Buehrer, J-B-U-E-H-R-E-R. So congratulations. Really excited that you won. And I'll go ahead and send that to you guys when we're done with the show today. But you'll get a free access to all the Escalate Live from the May event. I'm going to write that down. J-B-U-E-H-R-E-R. Thank you, my friend. That's really fun. Are you still there?
I am.
Hello. Okay, good. So that was my awkward Twitter announcement. So that's with the winner. Let's transition a little bit. I want to talk to you about your experience with television and actually getting connected. So you created all this infrastructure. People reached out to you to just do orders, but these were very kind of special people, and that they had a lot of influence and a lot of know. And what I've noticed about celebrity types is that, like every other human I know, when they find something they like to talk about it. And it seems like that's happened for you quite a bit. So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying, look, lay a good foundation, pray and hope for the best. And when opportunity comes, be ready. But talk a little bit about your experience both with television and with working with folks who are really well known. Was it as you expected? Has it given you much of a benefit? Was it more stress than it's worth? I know a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but I know a handful of folks who are in the industry and in the television, radio, TV, film, who sometimes say that it's a lot of work without the kind of benefit if you're not prepared for it. So can you just talk a little bit about kind of the fruits of these opportunities that have come your way?
Yeah, well, when I first started, can you hear me?
I can. We can hear you great.
Okay, perfect. Okay. When I first started, and I got a couple, medium big orders, I was getting contacted a lot for free stuff, and people would try to make it sound like it was a great experience and that I really had to do it. I would get lots of benefits, and I did a lot of them, and I got no benefit almost out of a lot of them. Like one time I did Kendra, one of the Playboy Playmates, I guess, or her bridal shower. And I drove all the way down to Hollywood, and I did it all for free, and I got zero benefit, not anything really. I was not happy at all, and I felt so burned from the experience. So I definitely felt like I got burned along the way a lot, and so it made me be a little bit more cautious about what I did. You know, I always try to get paid for almost everything that I possibly can and ask for that a lot, at least some payment. You know, like the Oprah thing I got paid for, which is amazing. I mean, I wouldn't think I would get paid for hers, but I did. But then other TV thing is almost all free, you know, what I've been encountered with at least. So some of the bigger ones that I've done, like with Tori Spelling, you know, I guess I didn't go after it because most of the time you don't know about these events because they're secret or something like that. But Tori's publicist called and said that, you know, Tori Spelling had seen my work. And again, I think that goes back to having a nice website and blogging and Twittering and all those kind of things. And, you know, asked if I would be interested. And, you know, I said yes. It was for free, and it was a lot of work and took a lot of time, but I thought it would be worth it, and I think it, you know, it has been. That was a great experience for me. It was hard to work with, you know, high-profile clients sometimes because they have exact wants and needs, and it can be a little bit overwhelming at times, and, you know, you don't know how it's going to go, and you don't want to feel burned at the end of it. But that came out really great, and I, you know, actually taped another show with her for her new series coming out, which is on weddings actually, where she's the wedding planner. So I did the desserts for, you know, that upcoming one. And so that was a great experience, and I loved working with her, and I've had a great relationship still with her, even via Twitter and stuff. So, I mean, that's been something really a lot of fun. You know, and then recently with TV shows, I've had a lot of cake TV shows ask me to be on their show. I've had Cupcake Wars and Ultimate Cake Off call me multiple times trying to be on their show, but I've said no every single time. And some people think I'm sort of crazy for doing that, but I really like, I'm not a control freak, but I know what I want, and I think I know how to go about doing it. And in a lot of TV things, they're going to portray you in not a way that I want. I don't want to be judged by other people in my industry because I think that makes me look like I'm not as good as them, which I'm hoping that I am. So I don't want to put myself on Cupcake Wars where, you know, Sprinkles Cupcakes is judging me, and I don't even think it's about if your cupcakes taste good or not. They want drama. So I said no to a lot of shows, and then when this one came along, I always said, if a documentary style show came out, that's the kind of show I like, because I want to portray what I do, and if it's crazy experience, which normally Cake World is, that's totally fine, but I don't want to be like having a cake that's 7 feet tall and falling off just for everyone to laugh about. I want it to look really good. So when TLC came to me, you know, they asked me about it, and I said this sounded like a great opportunity, and it was a very crazy ups and downs. I pitched 3 different weddings to them. 2 of them fell through. This one didn't even happen until 2 days beforehand. I had to do the okay. So it was very crazy. It was 3 days worth of taping, but, you know, I was amazed at the outcome from it. I had so much more business, you know, in the front end of my shop. It probably doubled and has kept like that since after the airing, and I never thought I would get that. My blog stats and my website things were out the, you know, off the charts, going really big. So I couldn't have guessed that like 15 minutes on that show would have given me that much, but it really did. So, I mean, I guess you have to try. You have to definitely think about it and don't jump into every experience, but I think some are great and sometimes you'll get burned, so you have to weigh it.
Right. Well, it's funny because as I'm listening to you share, what keeps getting reinforced, because not everyone's going to get a call from Tori Spelling or Oprah, and we understand that, but the building block that I think everyone could understand and relate with is, again, you're very clear on who you are. And when you're clear on who you are, people can either like you or not like you. And if they like you, there's something to really like and talk about and remark about. And if they don't, they can't. It's not that you're bad or good, or it's just, it's elusive. It's hard to relate with and do anything about. And what I keep hearing you say over and over again, and I love your examples of how you said no to things, because in the photo world, people can get opportunities all the time. They can get featured on a particular blog. They could be published in a particular magazine. They could be whatever. But the folks that are very shrewd are the ones that are very not only clear who they are, but they're also clear where they want to go with their brand. And a great example, I wrote about her in my book, and she's a friend of both of ours. I know she's all over your site, is our friend Jasmine. And Jasmine Starr is someone who, in her photo business, is both revered and reviled by so many people, mostly when they don't like her, it's out of jealousy, I think. But what is unmistakable is how clear she is on what she likes, what she doesn't like, and how consistent she is with the brand that she's portraying. And it's entirely integrous with who she is and what she's creating. And I think it seems like the wrong response to that is, what does Jasmine do? I'll go do it. Or in your case, what is Melody doing? And I'm going to go mimic that. As opposed to, well, it's really clear what she's doing. She's being herself at any cost and putting that on display in the most attractive way possible. And when people have an opportunity to connect with it, they do. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but it seems like that's the magic sauce. It's not about the technique. It's about who you are and your identity. Could you comment a little?
I would completely agree. I mean, when I first started, I was definitely like mesmerized with Jasmine Starr, and still am till this day. And I mean, she's an amazing photographer, but I would say, her key ingredient too is that personality, and she's definitely clear on what she wants, and she doesn't do everything. And when she does something, you want to see what it is, and it's going to be great. So and you're always looking to see what she does. So I love her work, and I've definitely tried to look at that and be like, what can I learn from her? And I think that's what you talked about is the thing that we can learn. Do what you love to do, have your personality come out in it, and I think people are going to love you for that. Not everyone is, which is totally okay, because I can't make a cake for everyone or a mini dessert bar. One good example is when I first started, what was big in the wedding industry was cupcake towers. Everybody did cupcake towers, but I thought, I loved Vanilla Bake Shop's cupcake tower so much, but I couldn't do it like them because it'd be copying, and I couldn't figure out any other way to do a cupcake tower that I thought would look good. So I decided not to do any cupcake towers at all, which lost me a lot of business. But in turn, I did mini dessert bars, and I can do so many mini desserts, which almost every single shop in California can't do or doesn't do. Not that they can't, but they don't do it. And I have gotten so much business from doing mini dessert bars and custom cakes.
That's it.
So
totally.
Yeah, that was a great example, and it was hard to say no every single time to a cupcake tower that was easy money, but I mean, I didn't want to be the cupcake tower lady.
Well, and really, you would have been the copycat cupcake tower lady.
Exactly, and everybody's copied Vanilla Bake Shop, and no one wants to use them. They want to use Vanilla Bake Shop. Right.
So it's funny, and there's a lot of questions that we're not going to get a chance to get to today, but a lot of the questions really do revolve around that idea of okay, so what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And I want to scream because you're answering these questions so fantastically. There's this sense of which maybe a good question might be, what shouldn't you do? What are you doing right now that you should actually remove, and by removing it, you might actually stand out? I'm waiting for the day when I was making this joke, and I have this isn't actually meant to be a plug, but I have this book coming out in December, and I'm talking specifically about a lot of these ideas, and in it, I talk about this cowboy wedding photographer who is so committed that he'll only shoot grooms that are wearing cowboys and girls that are wearing spurs and whatever, and how it sounds crazy, but that actually would be the kind of niche that could get created, where if there was a market of those in the world, you would own it because nobody else is doing them. And it sounds like that's exactly what you've been doing. I guess a follow-up question to that
I think that's a good example.
Thank you. Do you think that there are, I'll ask in the words of some of our guests here. So Louis Pang asked the question, fake it till you make it, what's your take on this? And Louis, by the way, for context, is a really successful photographer down in Malaysia. I'm going to have a chance to head down there in January. And his open-ended question is a little unfair, But for folks who are starting out, I don't like the phrase fake it till you make it, but there is a degree to which anyone who's starting out is creating something a little bit out of nothing. And I don't know if it's faking it, but it's kind of envisioning it before it's concrete maybe, or something like that. How would you respond to this idea?
Yeah, well, fake it till you make it. I can definitely see two sides of that. I mean, I faked it till I made it in a lot of ways, like making the fake wedding cakes, you know, but no one knew they were fake. So I feel like as long as you can put your talents out there, like if you're shooting, say, a photo shoot that looks like a real wedding, but it's not, but it comes off and the photos are gorgeous, I think that's a great example of faking it in a good way. But I mean, if you're just going to keep copying someone's style and not learning anything new or exploring stuff for yourself, I think that's the negative of faking it till you make it. Like holding on to someone else the whole entire time.
I'm sorry, I was too excited when you said that, because it's so funny to me that people would think that you making a cake in your, and I've seen them, like I've seen the foam cakes that you made up front, that anyone would think that that's fake, when in reality it's real. Like you can touch it, it's real, you know, it's right there, and it's your design. Like your design, your signature, that's what's real. Yet when people emulate somebody else's work and it's a real wedding or a real whatever, they call that authentic, when in reality that's not authentic at all. That's just a copycat of another person's look in that context. So there's something really askew in people's minds when they think that that's somehow faking it.
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, you have to practice, you have to try stuff out, but you should try your own stuff out. And of course you're learning along the way, so you're trying other people's new techniques. But you know, I used to think, how will I ever design a wedding cake? How will I ever design a wedding cake? But the more and more cakes I looked at, the more and more techniques I tried, then finally I figured out what I like to do myself. So I would say that in any industry, you should look at everybody's work. You should try all of their stuff out, and then you should figure out what you like doing and what you're best at and stick with that.
So a couple last little questions, and forgive me for timing on this because we're already a few moments over time. And just so you guys all know, Sweet and Saucy Shop has a major event that's tomorrow. It's something like, how many guests are coming? 800 or something, you told me?
800.
So a little something that just
snuck
up on you today.
You know, it's, well, I'll stop and say it actually is, you know, this is another example of me getting, I guess, a celebrity client. I'm not allowed to say who it is. I'm not supposed to give any information, but it's a midweek wedding for 800 people, and it's going to be crazy tomorrow. So that's what I do have tomorrow in store. So I'll be up late tonight. That's
great. Well, the other questions that are here, my friend Danny Mendoza, I'll just drop them up here. Danny says, so how can we, just not as a photographer, but as artists, do to avoid being a clone? Another, Ross from England asks the question, how important was social media for you when building your brand? And have you used it effectively? There's no question the answer is yes to that. Even this question by Christy Crossan says, how did you first approach the vendors you wanted to work with? And so much of this has been addressed in the questions you've raised. I guess, is there any kind of final words that you would want to give? Like, or even, let's put it this way. Let's say you all of a sudden were a wedding photographer and you knew what you know now, given all of your experience on television, all your experience like startup, manufacturing, your office, build, you know, not your office, but your kitchen. I've seen it. I've been in the back of the house. I've seen what you guys have created, the loans, the tears, the late nights. If you're starting out from scratch right now and you don't have your sweet kitchen and you're still working in your house and you're still a part-time job, what's the first thing you do? How do you spend your time?
I would say I'd spend my time researching. That's what I did. You know, for my industry with food, I used to read every single book possible. I would try every single recipe possible. I would try every technique, and I think you should do that in any industry you're in. If you're a photographer, I think you should shoot everything and see what you're best shooting at with different cameras, with different looks. You know, learn from other people. I think learning, people want to go from step A to Z without doing any of the middle work. And I mean, people think that I grew really fast in a year, but I did 2.5 years solid straight in my house in a kitchen that was like, you know, an apartment size. I had 2 refrigerators, not a dining room table. I had a kitchen work table in my house. Like, I had to put in a lot of leg work. And I feel like that's what people want to skip out on and be impatient. But you need to do the legwork, and you need to practice, and you need to learn. And then once you know you've learned, you know who you are, and then you can grow and choose what you want to do.
Got it. You know, one thing I didn't that I need to just mention really quickly, I have eaten many of Melody Brandon's creations, and they're just unbelievable. And I think that there is a degree to which we probably understate the importance of actually having a great product too, that people are like, that people have a chance to remark about and that they really, really love.
Yeah,
and
I guess.
But at the same time, we're assuming in all this conversation that we're all kind of improving our craft and trying to do something special with what we create. But once it's created, then it's how do we bring it to market. One last question I'll bring up on screen. Karen Alsop from, I think she's from Australia, asked a question. When you first got to be on television, did you reveal that you were new to the business? How did you portray yourself? And what I love about this question is I already kind of know the answer. But when you were first starting out, how did you portray yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm honest, so I definitely said that I was new. I don't think being new is bad. I mean, if they're coming to you, you know, to be on TV and you're new, I think that just shows that maybe your work is up and coming and you're, you know, a breakout, rather than if I was in the industry 15 years and hadn't been acknowledged yet, I'd be like, why am I in the industry maybe? So yeah, I said yes, I was new to it. Yeah, I think it's great to say that you're new and that you're practicing and growing and people are acknowledging you. So I don't think it's a negative at all. I'm young. I'm going to be 27 this month, and people sometimes think that's a negative, but you know, if you want to do it, go for it.
I feel the same way. I'm going to be 41 next year, and I'm brand new. I'm just starting. It's great. It's funny. I was even laughing. Don't laugh at my joke. I was even laughing at the question a little bit because, you know, Justin Bieber is what, like 12? And he's pretty new, but because he's successful, all of a sudden it gets forgiven really quickly. And I think that there's a degree to which, in all things, if you're good and you bring it to market, great, and people have a chance to talk about it, they want you to, the newer, the younger, the better. And I think what you're saying more than anything that I love about Karen's question is, are you willing to be honest as you're walking this thing out? And if that's all people get out of this conversation, I think that's worth it in and of itself. There's a little bit of a time delay, I understand, and I want to be sensitive to your time, Melody, but I can't thank you enough for being on today's show. I'm such a huge fan. I think this is just the beginning for you. I was really tempted to ask you a question like, what do you think of Cake Boss? I avoided that question. We'll have to have that next time when you have back on the show. But I think you'd kick his tail if you guys were in a competition. I'm just putting it out there. But I think you're great, and I'm just so proud of you as a friend. And if there's ever anything I can do to support what you're up to, man, I want to do that. But thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks, Dane. I had a great time, and you've definitely helped me in so many ways and inspired me. So this was another opportunity that you gave me, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll see you guys next time. Take care. Oh, by the way, if this was helpful for you, be sure to reach out to Twitter and say thanks to My Sweet and Saucy. Thanks, you guys.